When Mars is in Capricorn, it's considered to be dignified. It is exalted in Capricorn. And so we'll have that presence until pretty much Valentine's Day, February 13th. So when a planet is exalted, when it's dignified, and let me back up for a moment and just mention something about essential dignity, which is a component of traditional astrology. So essential dignity describes the condition of the planet. Where is it in your chart? What sign, what house, what relationships is it engaging in with the other planetary bodies? And that contributes to its dignity. So when we're thinking about where is a planet, of course, we're thinking about which part of the sky is it traveling through, which part of the tropical zodiac. And every planet has the places of its domicile where it lives. And that is also sometimes called rulership. So Mars lives naturally in Aries and Scorpio. And so when we're considering Mars transiting through Capricorn, we're also considering the Aries and Scorpio placements in our charts, because those placements are receiving Mars's energy. So for example, if you were traveling and let's say Elizabeth is traveling, right, and leaves her pup at home. She's like, oh my gosh, I care about my house and I care about my dog. I'm going to get on trustedhousesitter.com, right, and find a house sitter. And so that's what she does. And then she's off and she's traveling. Where she is going to influence the house sitter's experience, and it's going to influence the experience of her home and her pup. So if she travels somewhere where she has access to lots of resources to stay in touch, right? And she's feeling good and she's feeling happy and she's like sending dog treats back home. And then her house sitter's like sending her pictures on her phone. She's happy, right? Where we're like, okay, there's flow. And then let's say she's traveling somewhere where she doesn't have access to the same kinds of resources that she's used to. Her communication might slow down back to her home. She might even, I'm not wishing this for you at all, but let's just say she's traveling somewhere. She doesn't have access to her usual resources and she feels stressed out. And we know that dogs and their human friends are really sensitive to one another. And we also know that we're all connected on the Psychic Friends Network all the time. And so when Elizabeth is in this place where she doesn't have the same resources that she's used to and she's feeling stressed out, let's say her pup really feels that. And they're like, oh no, right? And like they get stressed out. And then their stress causes them to move around the house in kind of an erratic way. And let's say they're like knocking things down, or the house sitter's feeling frustrated or something like that. So then the vibe at home is changing. So we can think about this similarly when planets are traveling through signs. And so when Mars is in Capricorn, it is in a place where it's considered to be exalted. So this isn't its home, but it's like its best friend's home, right? When you are in a place where you are exalted, you have all your needs met. It's like you are traveling to visit your favorite friend. They know all of the things that you love to eat. They know what kind of sheets and pillows you like. They're going to take you to all the right activities and events, and you're going to feel happy and strong and supported and resourced. So the idea of being resourced is really important when we're thinking about dignity. Now, Mars has a lot of dignity in Capricorn, but let me just mention for a moment, because people also have placements where the planet is considered to be not as dignified, or as sometimes they'll say afflicted, which I kind of love as a word because I feel like it's so dramatic. Like it's afflicted, right? So I have Mars in Cancer, and it is afflicted, right? And so if anyone has Mars in Cancer or Mars in Libra, then you can also join me in the like afflictions of Mars. So to have an afflicted planet, to have a debilitated planet, we don't have access to the same resources. And because we don't have access to the resources that allows this planetary energy to move in its natural way, to move in the ways that it feels most powerful and organic, we have to learn all kinds of different strategies and practice being with these kinds of energies in ways that often don't make sense in the world or aren't as supported and resourced. So if we're traveling, right, to go back to the traveling metaphor, this is when you're traveling to a place where you don't speak the language necessarily, you don't understand the customs, and you don't have your favorite food. You don't have your favorite sheets and pillows, right? You don't get to do the things that naturally you would definitely want to do. You have to do things that push you out of your comfort zone. So for Mars and Cancer folks, and also Mars and Libra folks, those of us afflicted types, we might have a natural way of moving. Mars represents action, assertion, desire. Themes of aggression also and conflict are important for Mars. And in medical astrology, Mars is associated with testosterone. Everybody has testosterone in their body. And let me say, astrology is not causal, like testosterone doesn't bubble out of crevices on Mars or something like that. But in terms of an energetic resonance, what testosterone does in our bodies is it builds muscle mass, right? It stimulates movement. The way that it can stimulate movement in a body is often very energizing, more energized. It's been remarkable for me to be with my partner over the last year, for example, in their journey on testosterone as a trans person, and kind of experiencing what this hormone does, what this chemical does in a physiology, but also in a mental attitude. And one thing that we've both noticed is they have different kinds of boundaries now. Their boundaries actually feel much more solid in certain ways. And they have a kind of forcefulness that moves out that they didn't necessarily express in the same ways before. So when Mars is in Capricorn, we have an exalted energy, and that means that Mars have everything that it needs to do the thing that it likes to do. What does Mars like to do? It likes to take action. And so when Mars is in Capricorn, the kind of action that it can take is action that is intentional, it's committed, it's clear, it has directive, right? Capricorn loves those things. Capricorn is also a sign that likes action, and it likes thoughtful action, considerate action, well-planned action, and action that is going to get us from point A to point B. So when Mars is in Capricorn, we are supported in forward motion a lot of the times. We're supported in regulating our energy to work effectively and efficiently, or some might like the word productively. Another thing that Capricorn likes to do, that Mars likes to do is fight. When we tune in with Mars as an energetic conflict, aggression, and fighting are some key words. So what kind of energy is Capricorn? Well, Capricorn rules the military, right? Capricorn is a bureaucratic, governing, authoritative kind of vibe. And we are certainly living in a world at war. It's been at war for a long time. And Mars in Capricorn can increase a kind of militancy and organization in that kind of energy in the world in general. But that also means in our own bodies. And so as Mars moves into Capricorn, we might also see conflicts intensifying in certain ways, authority figures and authority structures being galvanized and energized, fortified, and put into motion in new and different ways. We might feel ourselves in the ways that we engage with conflict, either interpersonally and in our own bubbles of existence, but also in the ways that we feel conflict happening in the world. We might feel ourselves becoming more militant in some ways, more forceful around our opinions, more willing to take them into the battlefield. Mars is associated with desire. And testosterone, again, is a hormone that everybody has in their body. If you don't have testosterone in your body, it's incredibly hard to get out of bed in the morning, right? The reason why we get out of bed, why we take any action at all, generally is because there's some kind of impulse or desire that's pushing us in that direction. Could be a survival impulse. It might not necessarily be a conscious desire to get out of bed, but a feeling of like, okay, I've got to get out of bed because of some reason that's compelling me. It could be that your body is getting you out of bed. It's like, time to poop, get up, right? So reflexes, primordial responses in the body, the bodily needs in its own movement also compel and propel us. If you have a natal Mars placement in Aries or in Libra, then this transit is going to mean that you're going to get a Mars square. If you have Mars in Cancer, like I do, then we're going to get Mars in opposition to our natal Mars. Hard aspects, squares, and oppositions bring challenge. And challenge is potentially really productive and very creative. So don't listen to astrologers that say that oppositions and squares are bad. That's simply not true. Oppositional energy and a kind of 90-degree square energy can be challenging. It can be frustrating. Sometimes there might seem to be blockages or confrontations or kind of polarizing or amplification of energy. But a lot of times we need that to get us going. Charts that don't have any hard aspects, if they're all the blue lines of sextiles and trines, sometimes people feel like it's really hard to actually get their energy moving in certain ways or in different ways than what is really easeful. So the soft aspects, sextiles and trines, bring more ease, which also isn't always a good thing, right? Sometimes ease is laxity or non-awareness. So hard aspects for the cardinal cross with Mars placements, and Mars takes about 2.5 years to orbit the entire zodiac. And so every 2.5 years, or about 2 to 2.5 years, you'll get a Mars return. If you have Mars in other Earth signs, then you're getting that trine, right? And a trine is when there's elemental complement, Earth for Earth, right? And element for element. So think about your dominant elements. Like I have a lot of fire in my chart. And so when I come into like fire for fire relational vibes, I love hanging out with other Leo risings. We have such a great time because it's totally fire for fire. And we're like, oh my God, yes, like let's play. And that's the vibe, right? So Earth for Earth is also like, wow, here we are in the material realm. Let's speak in practical, concrete ways, and do things that are affecting something. I did a psychodrama experiment where we divided people into their Mars elemental groups. So Mars and Earth, Mars and air, etc. And the question was for each group to decide together what tool they would want to have if it was like they could only choose one tool for survival. If you could only choose one tool for survival, what would you choose? So I was in the Mars and water group. Without hesitation, all of us at the same time were like, psychology. That is the tool that I would keep, right? I need to know how things are working out there. You know what the Mars and Earth group said? A hammer, right? It's so concrete. It is concrete, it's practical, it's material. So Earth for Earth, Mars and Capricorn is supporting you to be here, concrete, practical, moving in ways that make sense to you and your body and your corporeal intelligences. Earth is complementary to water. Those energies both move down and in. And so if you have Mars in water signs other than Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, then you have a complementary sextile as Mars moves through Capricorn. So Pisces and Scorpio as energies really take us into the down and the in. They are both, and especially Scorpio, right? They're both signs that like time and process. Scorpio loves stealth, so does Capricorn. Um, Pisces is a very sensitive sign, and Capricorn and its archetypal energy is often related actually with Pisces in its image of the sea goat. And some of the traditional mythology around Saturn, Capricorn's planetary ruler, related with Enki, with the Mesopotamian creator god who emerged from the sea and every night went back to sleep in the chaos of the creative waters. And so there's a deep sensitivity and soulfulness actually in Capricorn. And it's really important that we remember that in our Capricorn placements. Capricorn as an energetic is effective, it is productive, it is committed and has a lot of integrity and is oriented on process. But a lot of that orientation is coming from a deep sensitivity and a real awareness of the kinds of practical concerns that support care, right? Different kinds of care that a Pisces and Capricorn might give, but there's still a sensitivity that needs to be held in awareness. And this can seem a little antithetical maybe to a lot of things that are shared about Capricorn, which can often include a kind of non-emotionality or harshness. But I'm just going to put this out there that people who have a lot of Capricorn energy in their charts are often people who had to learn how to cut themselves off a little bit from deep emotionality and sensitivity in order to survive. And that grit that they have, that determination and fortitude is their survival medicine, right? That's part of what they have cultivated in order to go through what they needed to go through in their lives. And when you tune in with the Capricorn placement in your chart, you might think about how the themes of that area of your chart have manifested also in the ways that you have had to survive. You don't have to have planets occupying that place in your natal chart. The energy is still there. I don't have any natal planets in Capricorn, but I do have Capricorn in my 6th house as a Leo rising. The 6th house is the house of jobs. I have been working since I was 12 and working full-time since I was 18. I struggle to take time off. I grew up in a family with a lot of financial precarity, and I've had to work most of my life to have any kind of resource, right? Material resource. And it's something that's a drive for me in my jobs, my 6th house of jobs. And the way that I work is a very Capricorn kind of way. You know, I can push myself really hard. And so the work that I've done with embodiment and astrology has been so important for me, because if I didn't have that, I would probably be a total freaking mess right now. I would not know how to care for myself because it's not instinctual to me, actually. What's instinctual to me is to go, go, go and get the things done that need to get done. So consider where Capricorn is for you in your chart. Oh, I forgot to say the air signs, right? So Capricorn in relationship to air, if we're thinking about Libra, we have a square element. So Libra is part of the cardinal cross. And if we're thinking about Aquarius, we have what's called a semi-sextile. So a kind of next door neighbor energy. Aquarius comes right after Capricorn. And this relationship, when you learn about it in traditional astrology, is also often called afflicted or averse. And aversion is a kind of innate unnaturalness. I actually disagree with this. And so I'm going to just tell you that that's part of like a traditional interpretation sometimes. And the reason why we might be averse to what's right next to us is because we can't see it. So if you think about like your sun sign or your rising sign, what's right next to you, you can't necessarily see it. And it might be so natural, so innate that you take it for granted, that you don't see it fully. There can be a lot of familiarity, but also a kind of like dependency or codependency between the energies that isn't totally conscious. I also feel that this kind of energy is very supportive. And so when you have someone right next to you, You know, they can totally cramp your space. They can smell weird. They might pick your pocket, but they can also be someone that you can lean into. They could put a hand behind your back. They can whisper into your ear, give you some helpful information. And Aquarius and Capricorn are both Saturn ruled signs. So there's a kind of similarity between them in the sense that they are both embodying the fortitude, seriousness, and discipline of Saturn. But Capricorn is an energy that is associated with the past, while Aquarius is an energy that is associated with the future. And so some of the ways that they might interact, and we're going to get to feel this a lot in 2024 because Pluto is moving back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius. Same thing in 2023. We can feel it in our collective right now, right? There's a strong regressive conservative pull. Like, we're not giving things up. We're gonna fight for, like, you know, America to be 1800 again. And at the same time, there's a strong progressive pull. There's a pull towards the future. Let's dissolve all the borders, right? And both of them may be kind of extreme, and also they need to inform each other. And the Saturnian qualities here are going to manifest similarly, but in different directions. It takes a huge amount of fortitude and commitment to fight for the future. We have to invest ourselves in our future ancestors, actually, because the work that we're trying to do in the long term won't probably happen or be realized entirely in our lifetimes. And if we're going to work towards the future, we can draw upon the wisdom of the past, and we can hold allegiance and respect for our ancestors, but we also want to move forward. If we're pulling away from the future, it's like we have to get really rigid about it. No, I'm not going to do that. You know, I'm planting my stick here and not moving from it. And that also creates a kind of hardening. And then with Gemini, so if you have Mars in Gemini, your Mars is what's called inconjunct to Capricorn in this transit. They'll be inconjunct or quincunx. And that relationship is also considered to be aversive because we have true difference right now, really, really different kinds of energies. Mars in Cancer is opposite to Mars in Capricorn. And though Cancer and Capricorn can seem like opposite energies, they're often actually quite similar. And they have many of the same or shared priorities. For example, they're both very oriented towards creating safe and secure containers. Capricorn might want a safe and secure container for something that feels material, like we're going to have enough food, we have a house to live in, we have structures that support us in our lives, while Cancer might want a safe and secure container for relationship to happen. But relationships fill out the houses, right? And the houses hold the people inside. So Gemini is almost opposite to Capricorn. Gemini is right next to Cancer. That's a 150-degree aspect. And that aspect is truly different. So Gemini is of the up and out elemental modality, the air and the fire moves up and out. Gemini likes to move in multiple different directions at once. It is really interested in options. It's super queer. It's hacking things. It's curious about stuff. It does not always have a great attention span. Capricorn likes to move one step at a time with a reason behind it, right? They're very different energies. And so as Mars moves through Capricorn, if you're a Mars in Gemini, then you might be supported right now and challenged to focus, right? To take all of your different diverting, directions and impulses that move and hone it in and focus in some particular kind of direction right now. When Mars is transiting, or when any planet is transiting in any sign, it's always talking back to the place that it's from, right? And it's always talking also to your natal placement. Does that make sense? So Mars is transiting Capricorn. It's talking to the Aries and the Scorpio parts of your chart right now. And it's also talking to your natal Mars. And all of those placements are receiving the information that Mars is getting as it moves through Capricorn.